we're going to talk a little bit about Starfield
and all of its glorious detail,
and all of the 5 details we know about it. This is obviously
it's named Starfield. 2, it's made by Bethesda.
And who knows? Maybe the Starfield name could change. So this is obviously the upcoming science fiction game from Bethesda Studios. They announced it back in 2018, I believe. And it was just like the smallest of teasers possible. But recently, I was going to say Bethesda bigwig, but Todd Howard is not especially big. He's just a wig.
With an H.
Yeah. Todd Howard was giving a talk at the Brighton Digital Conference, and he teased a few more details about what Starfield will be. And this comes courtesy of Liana Rupert over at Game Informer. But he clarified there will be no multiplayer aspects to Starfield, which is probably a good sign to anyone who was not so into Fallout 76. He also talked about how, and this is something I hadn't heard, but something that like Elder Scrolls 6, which who knows when that will come out, the game will take full advantage of procedural generation to help quote create life within the game settings, unquote. And that the world of Starfield will be much larger than Fallout 76, which is, I guess, impressive. I didn't realize this either, that Fallout 76 was 4 times the size of Skyrim. The procedural generated content will not apply so much to the world, but it seems more about what inhabits that world, he indicated. And then he also confirmed that both Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 will be, as we thought, day one on Xbox Game Pass, following the Microsoft acquisition of Bethesda, which we talked about a few weeks ago. This is not a lot to bite into, but I thought there are a few nuggets here that are interesting, mostly the confirmation, obviously, about Game Pass, but also for me, as someone who is a fan of Bethesda games, but obviously has always, I think, like a lot of people, noted how much room for improvement there is in their worlds. The procedural generation is interesting, perhaps because it'll take some work off of the developers' hands and allow them to kind of reinvest that work in other areas of their worlds. And I also should have mentioned that Howard had said previously that Bethesda games moving forward will feature a new engine. And the engine that they've currently been working with obviously has shown some wear and tear over the years. So we'll see if what that means for all the fans of Bethesda glitches. But what do you guys think about the little nugget of Starfield information we got?
First, Mangle92 joining us in the chat says, what we don't need is an Elder Scrolls Battle Royale or Bethesda BR. And, well, good news, man. They did say this is a single-player game.
Yes.
But bad news, the Bethesda BR already exists in Fallout 76. It's called Ring of Fire, and it was a great concept.
That's about it.
But not that fun to play.
I always get a little disappointed to hear things like as far as like procedural generation and random generation in games, because I think like so much of solid design is being really intentional about where things are placed in the world, and I don't think it necessarily takes pressure and resources off of the development team and allows them to do something else, because then they have to just make sure like the procedural generation engine works well and applies stuff appropriately, and it's a whole different ballgame in that regard. Also, just like the concerns that I was expressing in our next gen talk, like coming to a head here, of just like the world is so much fucking bigger than Fallout 76. There's going to be so many more different kinds of creatures and landscapes and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm expanding on what he said here, but like like those aren't features to me. That like those are never features in a game. Like if you want a giant universe of procedural generation, like play No Man's Sky. Like the thing already exists. Like these things don't really mean anything to me. They're kind of buzzwordy, but it's also just like I want to hear about ways that you're levering the engine, your new engine, beyond just like the world's a lot bigger.
Yeah, and it's worth like him saying that certain aspects of the world will be procedurally generated doesn't really even mean much, considering like I think more than we think, a lot of the AAA games we play involve quite a bit of procedural generation. Ubisoft games, so specifically Assassin's Creed games, are notable for this. Like they have programs that pretty much like design entire streets of cities based on kind of inputs they've put into their engine. It's like this isn't particularly notable, at least as far as he's indicating it. Perhaps it's more extensive than he's letting on, but like if it's just applying to like what creatures are on a planet or something, like that's again, yeah, that's that sounds like a lesser version of No Man's Sky. The engine stuff is interesting to me just because like
yeah, we've needed it.
They've needed it, and will that actually mean that it changes anything, or will it just create new problems because this is their first time working with a new engine? Yeah. I will be sad to see glitches go in Bethesda games if that's the case. It's part of the charm. It's janky as hell, but it's fun.
I don't know about that one.
Maybe I didn't play 76, so I'm not.
Any thoughts, Larry?
Oh, I don't really have much to add, to be honest with you. Just this doesn't tell me anything really.
When do you think this game is coming out?
Starfield? I forgot it existed till this article.
Oh,
I hadn't thought about this game in probably over a year. So
Starfield,
you know.
So go ahead. Sorry.
I'm glad to learn it still exists. That's cool.
Is Starfield supposed to be before or after Elder Scrolls?
I don't think have they said that.
We were told there were two major projects before Elder Scrolls, I thought. So I would assume this is one of them. But
yeah, who knows? 2023.
Yeah. It's also one of those things where I think, wasn't it Fallout 4 where like they said, oh, it's not going to come out for a little bit, you'll have to wait, and then they like launched it that year in October or something.
Yeah, they announced it at E3 and it was out later that year.
Yeah. So
I just don't think they're going to do that again. Like, because
I don't think they should do that again.
Yeah, that's true too. But I also just like, I know the conversation right after they did that was like, man, more and more companies need to start to do this shit. And like nobody followed suit on
yeah.
that.